Welcome friends to the 2015 to 2023 Ford Mustang S550 Buyer's Guide video. I'm going to be covering some basic specs and some model year changes so you can become acquainted with this car. Then I'm going to talk about the various issues. I'm going to go through the current Ford Mustang market and pricing, and towards the end we can talk about the competitors and my personal thoughts on the car. All right, let's get started with the various model year changes. Of course, throughout this video, I'm going to be sharing with you multiple resources that you can utilize in your own research so you can apply everything I'm showing here to any car that you are interested in. You no longer have to ask, is this car reliable, or how much should I pay for this car? None of that. All of those questions are going to be answered in this video along with the resources you can utilize. All right, the first thing, I really like to use Edmunds to check the various model year changes. They do a really great job in documenting this information. 2015, this vehicle first got unveiled, and for 2016, they updated the infotainment to the Sync 3 system, and the EcoBoost and GT Coupe models now get an available black painted roof. Also for 2016, the GT Performance package is now also offered on the convertible, not just the coupe, and all GT models get standard secondary turn signals that are integrated into the hood vents. We also have things like the California Special package along with the Pony package on the EcoBoost. In 2017, there were no notable changes. 2018, we got the subtle refresh with the front and rear styling. They discontinued the V6 engine and they made the EcoBoost and the V8 engines more powerful, and we now have newly available adaptive suspension dampers. In 2019, they introduced the Bullet, and the California Special package is available with the GT Premium models. In 2020, they gave the EcoBoost 4-cylinder models a handling package, and we also got the high output EcoBoost Performance package, and it was essentially the same engine from the Focus RS. The Ford Pass Connect also became standard across the board on every Mustang in 2020. In 2021, they introduced the Mach 1 Mustang, and this was almost like a Shelby GT350, except it was powered by the 5-liter Coyote with 480 horsepower, but it came with a lot of goodies from the Shelby GT350, so this is a very cool model. The EcoBoost and the GT now come standard with Ford's Co-Pilot 360 and a whole suite of safety tech as well. And in 2021, they also discontinued the Bullet models along with the PP2 package. 2022, we got the Ice White, the Stealth, and the Coastal limited appearance packages. The California Special, that returns, and the V8 engine now loses 10 horsepower and 10 pounds-feet of torque, so nice, going in the right direction. 2023, that's the last model year of the S550 Mustang, and we have no new changes. All right, let's move on to some basic specs now. Once again, I am using Edmunds because they do an excellent job in compiling the original OEM specs of just about every car. And what I love most is they also have the original MSRP for that particular model year, along with the pricing for the various options in that model year. And you can really see just how inflated the car market is today when you see the original MSRP for that time along with the options price. But yeah, we had the EcoBoost 4-cylinder, the Cyclone naturally aspirated V6 engine, and of course the Coyote 5-liter V8. Then there's the Shelby products, which I'm not going to focus in on in this video. I feel like the Shelbys deserve their own buyer's guide video. But as I mentioned before in the previous segment, they dropped the V6 in 2018. And that's also when the 5-liter V8s got more powerful and now produces 460 horsepower, 420 pounds-feet of torque. The 10-speed automatic, which was co-developed with GM, really brilliant. It suits this car extremely well. In fact, I prefer the 10-speed automatic and the way that vehicle feels compared to the 6-speed Get Rag manual transmission. I don't like the manual. It's got an ambiguous clutch pedal, and the actual gear shifting, it's just not the most satisfactory, especially when you compare it to the crisp and predictable Tremec manuals found in the Camaro and in the Challenger. But if you want a manual, there it is. You can get it, you can modify it, I suppose. For the people who just like the way the Mustang looks and they want a somewhat fuel efficient daily driver, the regular EcoBoosts, they're going to be getting 21 city, 31 on the highway, 310 horsepower and 350 pounds-feet of torque. And if you know you're going to be someone that's interested in autocrossing the Mustang, the high performance version of the EcoBoost, which is the Focus RS engine, is really something to look into with 330 horsepower. It's going to have that lightweight front nose, and it's got plenty of tuning capabilities. It responds really well to modifications. In fact, a modified EcoBoost, according to Stida, is faster around certain tracks than even V8 model and GT350 Ford Mustangs. The EcoBoost is not something to just sneeze at. It's definitely got good power, but it has zero character because it's a 4-cylinder. Honestly, the Mustang GT, it is the way to go. That 5-liter V8, that's what makes this product special and gives it character. The 5-liter Coyote, the engine just sounds way better than the 6.2-liter found in the Camaro and the 6.4 Scat Packs. It's such a magnificent exhaust note that these vehicles produce, and when you forego that and you go with the EcoBoost or the V6, it's just sad because you're missing out on one of the best attributes of this car. But I get it, everybody has a different purpose that they're trying to fulfill with the Mustang. It's a very versatile product, and it really is a open canvas. You can do whatever you want with this car, and it's got the various engines available to you for whatever purpose you're trying to fulfill with this vehicle. But the point of this is not for me to go through every little spec of this car. You can do that for yourself. I'm mainly just trying to present to you the resources so you can look this stuff up for yourself. But I will mention a few things before we move on. A 2018 Mustang GT Premium weighs about 3,700 pounds with the 6-speed manual. These vehicles have a 13.5 cubic feet trunk, which really isn't bad. And of course, for the S550s, we have the independent rear suspension, which I will talk more about during the conclusion segment, where I go into my personal driving thoughts of this vehicle, at least in its stock form. Also, with all of these engines, Ford does recommend using premium fuel, and I hope owners are actually doing that, but that's wishful thinking. Most people, they really put that regular fuel into their vehicles, which is really sad to see. These performance engines, especially those turbo engines, they really do want that premium, and you just have no idea if owners are using premium because that doesn't show up on a Carfax, and no owner is going to keep all of the fuel receipts either. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's talk about the various Mustang issues. As always, my most favorite resource is NHTSA.gov. You come to this website, you no longer need to ask, hey bro, is this car reliable? No more of that. You can just come to this website and you can find out for yourself. Just type in 2015 Ford Mustang and you can see there are 369 complaints. Yeah, that's pretty nuts. And not only that, you have the complaint section where owners like you and me write in, and that's where you see 369 complaints. You also have the recalls, the investigations, and the manufacturer communications, also known as TSBs or Technical Service Bulletins. This is where the manufacturer themselves find issues with their own product and they report them here. I know a lot of, Mustang people or car people don't like to hear or see issues with cars. I don't know why. You need to hear this. You need to understand that no car is perfect and they all have issues, and they're all documented on a government website that you can access at any time. So with the 2015 Mustang, there are 131 manufacturer communications. Again, that's issues that Ford themselves found with this product. And again, I am not going to go through each and every one of these because regarding these TSBs, there are a lot of redundancy here. It's not exactly 131 specific issues. There's some redundancy and some frivolous things thrown in, but for the most part, there are certainly some major issues that you should be aware of. And the recalls is the best place to start. We have 9 recalls with the 2015 Mustang. Recalls is something that the dealership will take care of for free because these are things that can potentially affect your life. So if the previous owner of the Mustang that you are interested in hasn't done some of the recalls, that's a problem because these things can be fixed for free. And if the previous owner is not even taking care of the free stuff, imagine all the other important maintenance items they probably missed out on. Anyway, we have the rear brake caliper guide pins coming loose. We have a fuel tank or vapor lines that may degrade from heat. We have a fuel pressure sensor that can potentially leak. There's a problem with the passenger safety belt tension sensor. The rear view camera becomes blank or distorted. The brake light can potentially malfunction. Doors that open while you're driving, that's a common issue. Also a TSB, and many owners have reported this happening. We have an oil leak from the engine cooler hose, and again, doors unexpectedly opening. They reported that twice. I guess the first time it got recalled, the issue was not fixed. Anyway, these are things that no matter how old your car is, a Ford dealership has to take care of these things for you for free. But that complaint section, that's a really valuable resource on NHTSA where owners write in about their issues that they have experienced. People have complained about rust issues around the fenders and on the hood. We have various leaks with the engine, the coolant, the transmission. We have various vibrations, squeaks, and other noises coming from the suspension, the steering, etc. Some people have had more catastrophic failures, like an entire strut blowing out. And keep in mind, you hear a lot of these issues. It's not just with the Mustang. Just about every car I've done this type of research on, they all have issues. And they all range in severity. And every car is random too, because you read about some of these horrific issues on NHTSA, then you can go on the forums and then people say, what issues? There's no issues with the Mustang. It's just all over the place. And it's true, cars are completely unpredictable. Like for instance, my master technician that has 2 Benzes with 300k miles on them each, he's never had an issue with either one. But I know some people with brand new Toyotas where their transmission just blew out. So it's all over the place with cars. But when you see all of these issues with the Mustang, it should clearly tell you that, yeah, if you're gonna buy one of these things, especially used, you better be mechanically savvy and know how to use a wrench, or at least have a really good mechanic that you trust by your side, because 9 times out of 10, I'm assuming you're not going to have a warranty. Like a lot of the TSBs that they have listed, all that stuff, it's only covered if it's under a warranty. Most people, they're probably trying to buy the oldest one with the highest mileage possible so they can save on the buy-in price. With the high-performance EcoBoost models, it's possible that you can have some head gasket issues. With the 5-liter V8s, you of course have the ticking sound that many people complained about. However, Ford is not going to help you with that at all. Ford says that if you experience a ticking noise from your 5-liter V8, it's actually normal and it's under perfect working condition. That's what they claim, and they say there is no fix necessary if you have the ticking noise. When I was talking about the specs of this car, I mentioned the transmissions. You have issues with the MT82 Get Rag manual and also with the 10-speed automatic. With the manuals, you have slipping, jerking, premature wear, as well as high RPM lockout. The shift forks can break. And also with the 10-speed automatic, people have had shifting issues with that as well. But it's not absolute catastrophic failures, but it's still pretty expensive if a transmission issue does pop up, even on the 10-speed autos. I just mentioned that from a pure driving standpoint, I prefer the 10-speed. It suits the character of these cars really well, but issues exist on both, and really you have to stay on top of the maintenance with these performance vehicles. And if you're buying one used without any warranties, at least make sure that the previous owner took care of the car, had all their receipts. Most of these owners, they're do-it-yourselfers, so yeah, they need to make sure that they have all their maintenance records and receipts for everything that they purchased. They really need to keep that somewhere and pass it on to the next owner, because maintenance is critical with not only this car, but with every performance vehicle. Again, there's way more to cover here. I mean, there's HVAC issues with the AC system, right? The compressor, the evaporator, and these HVAC issues, it can cost a lot of money to fix. Granted, it's not just the Mustang that has HVAC problems. A lot of other vehicles have them too. There's various reports about leaks, water coming through either the front A-pillar or even in the rear window. There's also the window actuator that can potentially fail. With a lot of these two-door cars, when you open and close a door, the window goes up and down slightly. Yeah, when that mechanism fails, water can also easily come through that gap. And when water gets into the cabin like that, that can cause all sorts of electrical issues and even health issues as well. We also have carcomplaints.com. This website does essentially take the same information from NHTSA, they just compile it in a more easy to digest format. And what I like about car complaints is they also show you like a bar graph, if you will, of which model year had the most amount of issues. Of course, the first model year and even the second, it's best if you avoid that. So 2015, 2016, I would definitely try my best to avoid those model years. But many people seem to agree that there is no such thing as the best model year when it comes to the Mustang. They all have issues down the board, no matter which one you end up with. But yeah, getting the newest, cleanest, lowest mileage one, that's definitely going to be in your best interest for sure. Anyway, another reason why I like car complaints is because in the TSB section, you can actually use Control F on your computer and you can just easily search on the screen what you're looking for, you know, transmission issues, engine problems, leaks, vibrations. You can easily find that by using Control F on carcomplaints.com in the TSB section. It also shows you the crash test safety and the scores that the car got during that time. And obviously when the Mustang first came out, the S550, the tests were not very strict at all. It's nothing like it is today. The Mustang would obviously fail just about every IIHS test if it got reevaluated today. But at the time it got, you know, good marks, and on the NCAP test it got 5 stars. Whereas in other countries where the testing was stricter, this thing was getting horrible scores. Surprisingly, I believe the Camaro is the safest out of the trio of muscle cars. You would think the Challenger is the safest because it's the heaviest and the largest, but no, the smallest and lightest Camaro, that ended up being slightly better than the Mustang and the Challenger, surprisingly. But of course, nobody who buys these cars really cares about safety anyway, so we're just going to move on from there. You also have the forums that you can use to do further reliability research, and Google, you can easily just type in Ford Mustang S550 problems and various articles pop up. I believe in Australia there were reports of potential engine fires with the V8 engines. And among all this, I also like Steeda and their YouTube channel, along with their various articles that they've written about the Mustang. Steeda, S-T-E-E-D-A, they're one of the largest aftermarket companies that support the Mustang. They sell some great parts. I have no affiliation with them, but their parts I've heard are great. And on their YouTube channel and on their website, they have a bunch of great articles written that can give you some excellent insight on these cars. If you're going to buy a Mustang and you want to perfect the experience, because you see a lot of issues on this car, but the good news is there's plenty of parts available. There's plenty of aftermarket support. A lot of people know how to work on these vehicles. And if you have an issue, you can pretty easily resolve it with all the parts and the resources that are going to be available to you on this car. And Steeda is definitely one of those resources, especially when it comes to suspension. They have a lot of components that can fix a lot of issues when it comes to the way the Mustang drives from the factory. Okay, like wheel hop, that's an issue that a lot of these Steeda components can resolve, and it's something to look into. Anyway, as I mentioned before, I showed you the receipts, I showed you the potential problems that can arise. I'm not here to go through every last one of them, that's why I'm sharing with you the resource. But when you see hundreds of issues like that, the key takeaway is you're going to eventually run into problems. You either need a good warranty, or you need to be mechanically savvy or have people by your side to take care of potential issues. Fortunately, with the Mustang, you do have plenty of people that can help you. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the current Mustang market and pricing. Okay, whenever I'm researching new or used vehicles, I like to use cargurus.com, mainly because you can easily sort out the accident and the salvage title vehicles. You want to do that because you have no idea how some of these body shops put these vehicles back together. It'll never be back to that OEM spec, but I guess judging from that previous segment where we talked about the issues, the overall quality control, and their original OEM spec, I guess it's not that great to begin with, right? And you know, that's okay if these cars came in at a low buy-in price, which was the case several years ago, but now with this ridiculous post-pandemic pricing, these companies, they are charging elite levels of money for these half-baked products. I mean, all of them, the Camaro, the Mustang, the Challenger, this whole trio, they're all half-baked products. None of them are perfect. They all have their issues and their flaws, and that's okay. These are not supposed to be perfect vehicles. I can accept that. However, I don't appreciate them charging like M3 levels of money for a vehicle that has nowhere near the same level of sophistication or quality control. Anyway, I'm going to save that more towards the conclusion segment, but let's start with the used car first. When I sorted between 2015 and 2023, I sorted out all of the accident cars and the vehicles I have no pictures. We're left with about 4,000 S550 Mustangs available for sale throughout the country. Prices range from 10 grand to $150,000 depending on, you know, what kind of Mustang you're shopping for. But these results also include the EcoBoost, the V6, and all the specialty Mustangs as well. And the 10 grand Mustangs with the 150,000 miles, that's really what most people are looking for. I already know this, but I like to at least sort out the EcoBoost vehicles. I want to look at just the V8 models, and we have a little over 2,000 available throughout the country, and the prices now went up to almost $20,000. That's going to be your low end for Mustang GTs, around $18,000. I would also suggest avoiding the convertibles because the more complexity you can avoid, the better, and skipping the first two model years would also be wise. So yeah, definitely 20 grand is what you're looking at, and mileage varies drastically. If you sort by low mileage variants below 30,000 miles, now you're much closer to the 30K range. And yeah, that's about what you can expect to pay, around 25 to 30 grand. That's going to get you a relatively clean Mustang GT. There's about 200 or so certified pre-owned models that you can look into around the country, and those should also qualify for more favorable interest rates. And keep in mind, it can only be a certified pre-owned vehicle if it's at a Ford dealership. If it's anywhere else, it's not CPO. But yeah, the certified cars, they will come with a portion of the manufacturer warranty, and those are the best warranties, by the way, when it comes direct from the manufacturer. Then you know they will actually stand by the product. So that's certainly a good thing if you want to look into that. There's a couple hundred of those across the country. Ford hasn't advertised better interest rates for the CPO products. It's something you would have to ask about, but usually they do get more favorable interest rates on the finance. And that's important because right now for a used car, you can expect to pay like 10% interest for a used vehicle. It's just a nutty time right now to buy cars. In the past, I would never even recommend a $30,000 Mustang because pre-pandemic, you can literally get new ones with excellent incentives and dealer discounts to the point where there was only a marginal difference between a clean used model and a brand new Mustang. Now, of course, we don't have any crazy discounts, and even if you do get a dealership that'll take some money off of MSRP, these manufacturers, they have increased their original MSRP to a ridiculous point. I mean, a base S650 Mustang with just the performance package added onto it, it's around $50,000, $51,000 now. It's got no other options on it. Granted, that performance pack does come with a lot, but yeah, it's a lot more expensive than it was before. There's about 11,000 new Ford Mustangs available for sale across the country, according to Car Gurus. People just don't have as much money anymore to spend on these sports cars and luxury vehicles like they used to, and also with the increased pricing, the higher interest rates, terrible lease deals. I mean, yeah, it's just more difficult for the average person to get into one of these cars. I do have a free leasing calculator provided to you by AutoCompanion. It's going to be linked in the description box below. But yeah, the Mustang does not lease out very well. I just wanted to show you this calculator because you can see what the interest rate is on the lease for that month, because leasing programs change every month, so you can see the updated residual and the money factors on the AutoCompanion calculator. These things, they lease for about $800 a month if you got a $51,000 Mustang GT with the performance pack. Since there are a bunch of Mustangs available, I would at least try to go for $5,000 off of MSRP, see if they go for it. The worst part is most people don't do any research and they just walk into a dealership and they just pay whatever the dealership asks for. And that's why a lot of the savvy buyers simply can't get deals, because nobody else is doing research and they're still buying cars. That makes it tough for the people trying to actually negotiate and use some of these resources. Currently, Ford is offering like 3.9% financing for 60 months. Payments are still going to be $800-900 a month. But if you were to finance a $30,000 used Mustang at 10% interest, that's also going to be about $630 a month. So for $200 more, you can also finance a brand new Mustang, which now with these ridiculous prices, I mean, there is a legitimate savings now when you go with a used Mustang compared to a brand new one, about 15 grand in savings. But the high interest rates, it really does eat into that used car savings. And as we just saw, when you look at the original MSRP of a 2018 Mustang or something, these used prices are still super inflated, but what can you do? It's still a savings compared to the brand new Mustang of today, but you also have to take into consideration the quality of life, I suppose, which is something that nobody think about. When you go used, you're getting a 6-7-year-old car with mileage on it, no warranty unless you get it certified pre-owned. Most of the aftermarket warranties are awful. They don't really cover anything. The CarMax warranties are decent, but they're also not perfect. Sometimes they don't cover everything either. About 8 years ago, I had a Hendrick AutoGuard warranty on a Acura TSX. They genuinely did pay out every time. However, I'm not sure if the Hendrick AutoGuard warranty is available nationwide. You can consider calling them, but who knows? Maybe they suck now. Maybe they don't cover as many things like they did for me 8 years ago. A lot has changed with the car market after the pandemic. So it's a lot to keep in mind, but yeah, the interest rate is really what blows. And not to mention, when you do a traditional car finance, banks typically front load the interest on a car finance, meaning if you take out a 5, a 6, or a 7-year car loan, the first few years, you're primarily paying the interest. And this is why most people end up underwater on their finance vehicles in the first 2-3 years, because they're not paying much into the principal, which is why a low interest rate new car lease is powerful, because if you did get a low interest rate lease, the majority of the payments that you make, it genuinely does go towards the principal of the car. But in this case, with a 2024 Mustang, the interest rate is about 9%. So no, you're not making much equity in this lease. Many people say, oh, leasing is just throwing away money, or it's like renting a car. I don't know how these lies got spread, but if misinformation has spread about such a simple thing such as a car lease, imagine how many other things in life people are misinformed about or have been lied to. Yeah, with certain vehicles like a Tesla, for instance, you should read the fine print. They don't want you buying out the vehicle at the end of the lease. But with most mainstream cars, you are able to just purchase the car at the end of the lease if you want to. Again, you always have to confirm these things, but for the most part, with 95% of the cars on the road, you can literally buy out the car. In fact, it's better to do a low interest rate lease if the car qualifies for it. Do that for 2 to 4 years and then buy out the vehicle instead of doing a traditional finance. And that's why I want to share with you these resources so you can be updated and do your own research on whatever car you're interested in. But let's go ahead and let's conclude. All right, concluding thoughts on the Mustang. Overall, I am a fan of this car. I obviously love the GT with the 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 engine. I already said that it's the best sounding amongst the muscle car trio. And yeah, these vehicles do have issues. Quality control simply isn't the best. You know, I know Mustang people don't want to hear this. I don't know why, but they need to hear this, and they're going to hear it because it's not just me saying these things. I've brought out real receipts from government websites. The manufacturer themselves found these issues with their own vehicle, and they've already issued out multiple recalls. Yeah, the car's not perfect, but there's at least a lot of great aftermarket support. And this car needs it because it doesn't drive perfect either. There's this vagueness and miscommunication with the Mustang, and that's why a lot of people end up wrapping this thing around a tree or crash into crowds of people at Cars and Coffee. It's because you can't really just blame the owners either. The car itself provides you with almost no feedback in stock form. I made a whole video addressing this topic, and a lot of people commented that, oh, it's the traction control system. Oh, it's because it's too much power in a rear-wheel drive car and it's cheap, it's affordable, anybody can buy it. Really, it's none of those issues. The Camaro and the Challenger are equivalent vehicles to this. They all cost about the same. In fact, sometimes the Challenger and the Camaro can be had for a lower monthly payment, depending on the month. That's right, because they tend to have better leasing programs. Ford hardly ever has a good lease program. So no, it's not the fact that these are cheap and affordable cars with a lot of power going to the rear wheels. Even with the EcoBoost Mustangs, they're dangerous to drive because you just don't have a good feeling of what's going on in the road, both in the front end, the rear end. You have no idea what the car is doing, and it's just so unforgiving, especially in the rain. And you have no idea how to correct the vehicle because the car's not talking to you. Whereas the Camaro and the Challenger, literally competitors to the Mustang and cost about the same money, they are so easy to drive. You know exactly what the vehicle is doing at all times. You can slide it, you can drift it, and you can bring the car back easily. And that's why the aftermarket is so important for the Mustang, because companies like Steeda, they can fix a lot of the issues that I'm talking to you about. Again, I'm not sponsored by Steeda or anything. That is a go-to company that a lot of hardcore Mustang people like to utilize because they have great suspension updates and bushings and springs and IRS upgrades to get rid of a lot of the issues I'm talking about, to make the car feel more communicative and get rid of the wheel hop that these vehicles experience. And that's great. The Mustang really is a blank canvas and you can do whatever you want with. The Challenger, the Camaro, you don't have to touch those cars. They're pretty much perfect from the factory. They have their own little issues, but driving is not one of them. However, if you want a perfect Mustang out of the box without having to do anything, that's called the Shelby. You don't have to touch the Shelbys. In fact, that's the perfect example. A GT500 Shelby has 760 horsepower. It's rear-wheel drive and it's one of the easiest high horsepower rear-wheel drive cars that you can drive. I kid you not, your grandmother can drive it. But here I am saying that a EcoBoost Mustang is more dangerous to drive than the Shelby GT500, a vehicle that I've tracked and drag raced. No, the Shelby is just properly set up. It's got the proper suspension, it's putting its power down, it feels right. And I've driven multiple of these Mustangs throughout the years. Even the PP2, the PP1, that doesn't help at all. You have to step up to the Shelby if you want a perfect Mustang right out of the factory. The rest of the cars, you just have to modify it. But fortunately, you have plenty of options available to you, so that's a good thing. And yeah, when you go used, you pick up a $30,000 Mustang, you can set aside an extra $10,000, $15,000 to modify it in any way that you want. So no, I don't hate the Mustang. It's a great car. It's got tons of character. I like the way it looks. Interior wise, all three of these vehicles have cheap interiors, the Camaro, the Challenger, and the Mustang. Again, I'm okay with them cost cutting in those areas. This isn't a Bentley. I forgive it for that. But if you are a owner of a Mustang, and you can be objective and share some valuable insights with us, please do so in the comment section below. I would love to hear your ownership thoughts, but thank you so much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye.